G'day guys, it's Calvin from the Car Tune Company in New Zealand. Beside me is Old Yeller. Old Yeller is our test engine, and we're going to do something new for our testing regime with Old Yeller today. I'm sitting here wondering what Old Yeller needs.
More power, baby.
Not sure we could hear you.
More power, baby.
More power. She needs more power. And what are we going to do to make more power? I reckon we need a crank-driven
roots blower.
Crank-driven power multiplication device fitted to the top of Old Yeller. So let's get into that. Let's get rid of this and let's get a little bit more power up top. We got the 6 bolts on the sides. We got 6 bolts. Well, I'm happy. So this is an HTV 1900. See under here?
Yeah.
See the O-rings?
Yep.
It's cool, eh? So, put it in. That's it. We have boost.
So this is a roots blower, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, we need coils. 1, 2,
What way do you like these
3.
facing? What way
Backwards.
do you like facing? Backwards?
4.
Oh, it's a big boy.
5, 6, 7.
It's a big boy.
I've got to check on that back coil whether it's going to fit on the firewall. No, we should be okay. No, we should be okay. Righto. Do we need next? We need an intake. So the intake's going to go around here. It's actually getting a drive-by-wire throttle body out here. Bosh. Now this one's getting a 82, but I'm going to test it with the 74 and an ECU.
Bit more ear speed.
And, oh, the other way around. That's the ECU and that's the wideband. Because those are pretty important. Unfortunately, the one that supercharger came off. Hey, and a big thanks to Mr. Brown. We've got his truck here at the moment. And the Loom I'm building, this is going to Australia for Ross. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use this, of course, well I've used this, get all the measurements right, get everything sorted in that department, do my testing, check everything is right. It's really handy to have this. And then the Loom's going to go off to Australia. The coils, Ross has got coils. The ECUs will be drop shipped from Australia. He's got his throttle body. And the Loom goes across for Ross's mechanic, Adam, in Australia to fit up and commission. So this is a really cool job. Old Yeller is not going to get fired up with that supercharger on because I suspect it would push the bearings out the bottom of the engine, considering it's got next to no oil pressure once it's warm. Bit of making up this Loom. Oh, booties, that's the factory booty I put on. vacuum hose running through it. It's actually Raychem inside, so DR25, that's the top of the line stuff. We've got the little booties on the coils. Ooh. I don't think these injectors are going to plug in. I got the injectors, they turned up. We're running some Expert, which have the US car plug on them. Old yellow's under pressure. It's starting to look like something, and I'm just running through it at the moment. You can see my extra wire as I continuity test the whole thing. When I've done that, I'll continuity test it again to check everything and double check it. And we've got, oh, there's a gearbox loom. A gearbox loom going in. So that should just plug in. Sensor plugs for fuel pressure, fuel temp sensors, these are air temp sensors. Whew. Righto, a bit more testing, a bit more checking before we're ready to fire it up, but we probably won't fire it up with that on it. So I did say I was going to lay this loom onto this engine, and I got into that process, and I did lay it on the engine, and then I decided I'd just whip it off to do a bit of testing and checking, and this is what a lot of, where you don't see so much of when we're doing these jobs. You know, you see a completed loom, but in between I went and pinned out every wire on the loom to check it's where it's meant to go and going where I wanted it to do what it wanted to do. And part of that, hey, I put the speedo wire in the wrong place, so I moved that. Kind of nice to have the speedo going out to the dash where it was meant to go, and the factory plug, so I've done that. And in the meantime, Jason sneaked in and laid one of his looms that he's been building onto Old Yeller. So, he beat me. He's in there. So this one's actually going off to the USA. Yeah, that's going to the USA. We've been waiting on some plugs and boots, like a lot of places, shipping and couriers and all that. And then I do some bits and pieces with some cows, and one got me. Oh, that's a bad finger, eh? So, seems I didn't need that fingernail anyway. But that's life, we move on. I will have to do some of my documents again because now there's blood spatters on them, and it's probably not appropriate anymore to have blood spatters. Though, Steve Irwin, Catching Crocodiles, if anyone's seen it, you know, he was pretty proud. He'd go, yeah, that's blood. It's my blood. It's a bit like this. Anyway, what I'm actually going to do with this loom now, we've done enough supercharger testing on this one. And this supercharger has to go off and be test fitted on another vehicle, and thanks to the owner of it, and all the parts for the owner of the supercharger's vehicle has actually turned up again, so all those bits have turned up, so that's on our list to get sorted as well. But I want to lay Ross's loom onto Old Yeller and make it run, check everything works, and set up the computer. So I'm actually going to peel this charger off it, and I'm going to lay the drive-by-wire throttle body on it. I did another video on drive-by-wire throttle bodies. It's going to be close enough, and I'm going to fire it up as an NA engine and check everything works, doing that I want it to do, and it can go off on a box. It's going over to Adam, which is, he's a man in Australia, Ross's mechanic, who's going to set everything up and install it and commission it. And probably ask me a few questions while he's at it, but that's what it's about. With a lot of these days with instant messaging, we communicate via Messenger, and it's really handy. It's actually really handy to be able to do that. So again, I'm done with my testing over there. Pull Old Yeller to bits again and set it up and flick this loom onto this engine, and try not to get blood on it.
Actually, I don't get away from my own carpet.
That's blood. 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 So actually, I had enough last night. After bashing that with the cow, I then was lifting the manifold on and split that finger, and that's the one that bled on the floor. lots of it. But, yeah. The fact that there's no fingernail on there, it helps because it's all bruised on the bottom, like it's would have gone black, where she smashed it into the rails. Anyway, I gave up last night because I was hurting. I'm still in a good mood, so we've got Jason to help me put the loom on. He'd also stolen the coils. Bud the dog's loom. You've stolen coils for Bud the dog, so we need those coils back here. And then I've got the adapters for the injectors.
They're wrong.
But they're wrong? What do you mean they're wrong? Bless you. So we're who's so what I've got, Jace, is I've got
An adapter to go on an adapter?
double adapters. I've got an EV1 to EV6. So these are EV6, a US car. So we do that adapter. And then I made some EV1 male to Denso. Double adapters. So we can, that way we can test it with standard injectors. This loom's actually getting a set of 525cc, and those are 3/4 length. They're a Expert, which is, they come out of the Bosch factory. And then they're getting little adapters to up to 11mm to fit directly into the UZ. So because this is going to Australia, I don't want to run fuel through those. They're all sealed in their bags. No problem with customs. And then in the same bag we've got some sensors. So these are a Bosch combo sensor, do pressure and temperature, fluid pressure, fluid temp. And an extra air temp, which we'll test all those on this loom. I need to set that fella up. That's presently for an auto. So we better unauto that one. You right there? Yeah, so those are actually going to have a little wiggle. They're actually going to end up with a little bit of a pigtail under here, like that. And that one's going to have the same sort of thing. Adam will go through a course and he'll spend lots of time putting everything in place neatly and tidily, so it looks like that. And Adam, I've filled this up with holes so you can cable tie there and cable tie through here. So I'd leave those little covers in because of this stuff. It's that little thing there, that's like a little knife. So yes, I have experienced that, not myself, but we've got some photos of a terrible loom that we built, but the man's managed to repair it. With the Audi coils, they need to smash all the way down. Okay. I ended up putting it so the wiring can actually sit on the back of the fuel rail if they want, or the front of the fuel rail, so it can go back or front. I prefer back, but then because because there's a whole lot of belts and pulleys, which the pulleys have gone this morning. They've gone to their new home on a M122. We're surrounded by Supercharger stuff. And then I ran, the cam.
Oh, there's no clip on this.
What?
There's no clip on this.
On the old yellow sensors being raided so many times. And then there's a sub-loom for oil pressure right here. And there's a sensor right there. Old yellow doesn't have an oil pressure, so you don't need to test it. You don't need to actually plug it into the engine on that one, because we know it doesn't have oil pressure.
So this has more oil pressure like this?
Probably.
I reckon Supercharger gives more oil pressure.
It'll be like the engine shade just stripped, and you see that one's actually moving still. So these are moving. This one hasn't even moved.
There you go. It's just
started
about
moving
to now.
So how much move? So we're almost at the top of the cylinder. There's probably 2.5 mils of movement.
That's
there.
all the bearing.
That pretty. Old yellow would end up the same, with the little man and the hammer pushing the pistons into the cylinder head. Would be what would happen there. This is a late Hilux pedal.
You have a bit of faith in old yellow.
this should be the pedal that's in Ross's truck. So on it they actually, I'll send a picture of this pedal over to Adam, but basically you've got your two signals. There's an earth and there's a voltage control, so actually you've got your 5 volt and your earth, and then you've got on the outside's edges is the 2 signals, and these ones actually have an idle switch in the middle just for interesting stuff, and then it's got another switch here again, which is like for an idle switch. I'm wiring it to my standard plug. I'll write the designation on it, so if Adam wants to, he can either connect them at the ECU or he can build a loom that runs across to that one. While you're doing that, I'll set up this ECU. Rightio. It's not as clean and tidy as I would like while we're testing it, because I'm not testing it with the proper supercharger, and we've got adapters onto adapters for the injectors, but it does work. It all goes together. It's doing what I wanted. Now, so this is going to double as instructions as well. Made a set of relays like this. Yep. This is the loom off a diesel. So this is, it's going into a KZN 165. Yep, KZN 165. So this is a KZN 165 loom Australian spec. It's different to what we see in New Zealand. So Ross sent this over to me, and you can see here, these are the body plugs where they were. They're gone. Gone. They're now fitted to this loom. So there's them. There's 2 of them. I'll put the pinouts into a file so Adam's got access to that. But the plug Adam wants to know about right at the moment is this fella here. The big fella. You know, just when you thought you've got all the different terminals for Toyotas, you find a different plug and it's got a different terminal on it. And I wasn't going to put a join. That's not my style. So Ross's, no, Adam's going to find this one. And that big power wire there is from the glow plug relay. So he's going to bridge the glow plug relay, so that one will power up. It's already fused. It's a good supply, and then that's the start wire. Okay? And it's going to connect to that, which is actually going to be the one on this relay. So because I made this one, and I thought, oh, I'll make it about that long. It was about 600, and then I went, oh, it really isn't long enough. Just if Adam goes and mounts it somewhere different, it's just not quite long enough. So this one's about 1 meter for the supply to the Haltech system, and then it's about 1 meter out to that plug on the for the glow plug supply. Don't worry about that one. I will turn that one into another one that will be used for a different job. It'll work just fine. Then I've got this one which is the start wire, so there's your start, and that's your main power. And I've got this one which is the fan output. Good for about 18 amps. I think I might have put like up to 24 amp wiring in there, but I wouldn't want to go over 18. Okay, so watch that fan output. There is the pedal assembly wiring. I'm running on this pedal, as I said. You've probably got that other pedal in the truck, so you've got a choice of whether you just build up a little loom, sub loom, all the way to the pedal. If you want me to do that, I can do that. Okay, so you can still do that. I can check and test that if you want. Otherwise, it's all at the ECU anyway. The wiring for this pedal is at the ECU. And now, as part of it, there's the grommet. So this is the factory Hilux grommet, and I very carefully just ran the vacuum hose inside the grommet. Now inside of this loom is finished in DR25. So the DR25 actually runs all the way up to this point here, and then this grommet, that's the factory one, goes over the Hilux, and it is just zip tied, so Adam can adjust it. to suit nicely. And slide it back and forth a little bit to get the distances right. The ECU will fit in the factory position, the factory body plugs will plug in. So those are really, really easy. This side on the loom, this is where the coils, they've got little loops, just take any stress out. There's little loops in there. There's earths on each side of the cylinder head, they're important. Of course that one's for the gauge, that one's for the ECU. Adam's competent mechanic, so he's not going to be too worried about the stuff, and he's worked with Haltech systems before. This is just really so we're all on the same page. Inside or outside of the fuel rail, it's up to you. Depends on that charger, the way you put it on there, okay? Oh, I've banked off my IAC on the engine. Big thanks to Brendan at Quantum Auto. He supplied me the plates. He's actually got these little kits. So Brandon flicked a couple of these kits over from me. He's the owner of Quantum Auto in the US. We've known each other for years, talked on forums, but we've really become good mates in the last couple. And I've just used the idle speed blanker from that. You notice this PCV valve ones that actually allow the plate actually allow a PCV valve fitting to be in there, which is great. There's the cold start injector one and the EGR back one, which you don't actually need. We'll do a video one day on that. So Adam's got a choice whether inside or outside of the fuel rails. The injectors can flick over or be on the outside to the injector plugs to the injectors, of course. Of course, if it's going on the inside, it's going to go through there. It's across the back. We've got the earths, two earths, either both on the same cylinder head or on different ones, but of course on different points, please. And now there's the gearbox loom. I tucked it out of the way over here, so it would not get caught up in that ring gear. So this should all plug in. The zip ties are only stopping these fellas falling off. So they all go on the factory spots right down to the speed sensor. Now that speed sensor is running through the ECU, Adam, so you will need to calibrate it. Allows you to sort out wheels, different wheels, or get that speedo bang on correct. Over here in New Zealand, to make these vehicles road legal, get the certification, the speedo, it's kind of a funny rule actually, the certifiers work on about 5%. The rule actually says, refer to the VERM, which is the Warrant of Fitness rules, and it says the speedo should work as intended. That's all. It doesn't actually have a specification on how far away from correct it's meant to be, but I work on 5%. It's nice to have a speedo that's accurate, especially considering the speeding laws in Australia. You guys don't mess around in Oz. Nope. Right, we've got fuel pressure sensor with an adapter. It's the standard, it's that Bosch combo. Okay, so it's nice and simple. We were talking about tapping it into there. 1/8 gas, bang it in there. I'm not actually using fuel temp. I had to compromise on it. So we've got an ambient air temp instead. So this one's designed to go pre-supercharger. I've used the same one as we've used in the back. Let me run it back again. So in the back of the loom, we've got that one, which is designed, of course, to go in the back of the charger. I've made it a little bit long. We did discuss a sub loom, but I reckon you're going to get that in there just fine and reach in behind that charger. I do have the male side of that plug, if you really do need it. So just let me know, but I think that's going to be long enough. It's going to flick down there quite nicely and sit into that charger. Some people put them underneath in the cold start port, or like right underneath the charger. Right, going round. Oh, now, so that's that ambient air temp and fuel temp. There's this little jumper wire here. So there's, at the present, it's on ambient. But if you want to check your fuel temp, you can just turn ambient off Fuel temp goes in the same one. They're the same calibration anyway, so you can just jump that jump wire over, check your fuel temp, call it good. Dual wideband has been tested, has been checked. It's turned off in the tune at the moment. There's also a 2-pin plug. This fella here, that one there. So this 2-pin plug is a power and an earth, red and a black, pretty simple. So if you want to do your wideband or any other CAN device into the body of the ECU, into the main ECU plug, you can do that. I'm testing mine through the main Loom CAN plug. This plug's important. We'll come back to that. This plug's not important. This is some extra wires, okay? Though you might want to use that one there, which is air conditioning wire, possibly. Comes down and it plugs directly into the aircon pump. It's in this little lot here. There it is there. Okay. So this is actually going to tuck in right up in behind here. We've just got it out of the way because we're not running, of course, the normal supercharger throttle body and stuff. We've got this one to test it, to check that drive-by-wire is correct for you. Though this on that vehicle doesn't come from the main engine loom, it comes externally, so that one may end up not being used, and the aircon pump will be plugged in externally. Right, this is the plug, and I've only put on a plug on it, so it's probably going to get cut off, and Adam's going to attach it into the ECU wiring. So there's an ignition source, that orange wire. I have got a diagram of it. So in this plug I've got some spare wires, I've got the tacho wire, I've got a brake light switch, which is ideal for the drive-by-wire, which is recommended. So any extra outputs, the check engine light, that's in there as well. So Adam can then put that into the ECU and program it up to do what he wants to do with it. And then that one's for the drive-by-wire. Again, if you want me to do a loom across the vehicle, we can do that. Otherwise, you can connect in at the ECU. It'll be those plugs, or those wires will be in there, and you can connect that all up. Gone over that. Relays and fuses just plug in, so that's nice. I think that's pretty much the main stuff. Oh, some other sensors. I'm going to put in a new water temp sensor. So that's that one there. That one. We're not going to be putting new wiring looms on to not do that. Oh, and there's your oil pressure, oil temperature sensor. It's on a little sub loom. So that just plugs in. It's our standard sub loom. The oil light. Oil light's an output from the ECU. Speedo is an output from the ECU. Check engine light's an output from the ECU. And tacho is an output from the ECU. Should be able to run the stock diesel tacho with the ECU outputs, so that should be okay there. Ross has already got coils. That's good. The VAG coils. And there's lots of good options on them. I actually saw some Denzos. We're doing a loom for a guy in the US, supercharged loom, and he found those VAG coils in a Denso brand, which I thought was really cool. Really, really cool. Right. I think it's ready to make it run, eh? And I think Adam's going to be pretty well sorted on this. He's going to be pretty confident with the software. It's running NSP, so the later model software. I may end up getting a ECU drop shipped out of Australia. I've got some good contacts over there, and putting the loom in a box to go from over here. Injectors, there is injector data with those injectors. So when I'm running it on the factory UZ injectors, so when you fit the injectors into it, Adam, please put in the dead time values for the injectors that are in the box. Okay, that's quite important. Let's make it go, shall we? There you go. Yep. Right. Fuel pump. Oh, fuel pump. There's the fuel pump wire. It's just off from the fuse box. It's got fuel pump written on it. Ignition power, which is the orange wire on that 8-pin plug. And we attach this one onto here. That of course is in the engine bay normally. I'm running it on the normal 12-tooth trigger wheel and the single cam trigger wheel, cam trigger, so 12 and 1. There's bound to be other information Adam's going to want, but that's the bulk of it. Pretty straightforward with the sensors. Hopefully most of it will just plug in and work. There's only that one plug on the ECU to power up the main ignition inputs, and then the brake light switches and stuff, which will all be right there anyway. I'm really looking forward to hearing this one up and going. Did you notice how little I had to open that throttle when it was bouncing off the rev limiter? Poor old yellow, but that's pretty nasty. And the drive-by-wire on this is so cool. Haltech it's really, really neat to set up. I really enjoy setting up the Haltech ones because it is so simple. You don't have to worry about whether it's A or B on the throttle position, or A and B on the accelerator position, or even if you've got the wiring to this motor the correct way around. You just put it on and it just works it out itself. So that is just so simple. Okay, along with the air conditioning wire that runs to the air conditioning pump, there's some spares going into the ECU which can be programmed as well for the lockouts for the air conditioning. So there's a switch in, and there is an auxiliary output. It's one of the stepper outputs that go out, which can be used for air conditioning control, because in Aussie, pretty much I always make sure there's some air conditioning control available. Adam is confident with the Haltech ECUs. So the guy who's going to be commissioning it for the owner, Ross, worked with Haltech before, so he will sit through and he's going to go over and double check what I've done when he commissions this setup. So we'll plug it in, he'll confirm it powers up, he'll double check that the sensors are giving normal readings. He shouldn't actually have to go through and check each sensor's configured and set up correctly. He'll just be able to go, yep, it's got an oil pressure, it's got an oil pressure sensor, it's got fuel pressure, it's got a fuel pressure sensor, it's got that stuff's in there, that's all close enough. The temperatures are about right. The throttle works like it should. Boom, boom, boom. Some basic stuff like that. We know injectors and cores are in the right places. We know that the triggers for the cam and crank are correct. But Adam will be checking the base timing, because that's what good mechanics do when they set up these sorts of systems. We always check the timing on the engine that we're working on, and it should be pretty close. It'll be within 5 degrees of my one. And of course he's setting up the supercharger on it as well. So the vehicles, I should have actually said, it is getting that HTV 1900 with the intercooled manifold as well, which I might have said right at the beginning of this, but I'll say again. We seem to be surrounded by superchargers at the moment, and supercharged stuff, just what's coming through. So lots more coming, really exciting. And I've happened to have ordered in the last few days a HTV 2300 going to the USA, and an HTV 1900 that's coming here that we're going to be fitting up to a job in the workshop this year. So there's really exciting to be showing some of the supercharging stuff. Sure, there'll be some questions, but hope that's been helpful for today. Adam will go over the details, and Ross, I'll just go over the final details with you. And I'm absolutely confident that Adam will get this sorted. Hope that's been helpful. Talk again soon. Catch you later.